Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who builds his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. That's out of Matthew 7. And you know, whenever the Bible says therefore, there's a reason it wants us to go back and read the preceding verses or chapters. And I'm going to do that in a minute, but I'm in Matthew 7 today. And I was inspired to go look and read about the wise and the foolish builders, because I want to make sure that my house is built on the rock of Jesus and the foundation that he provides, versus the sand that the world tells me is important. Therefore, my spiritual house will not fall when the storm and the rains and the winds will come. And if you guys are like me, they're already here. I see them all over the place. So it's been really disturbing for me to see the chaos that's going on in the world and try to provide solutions and answers, when in reality it's not my position. You know, I can speak out against the truth, and I can make sure that I take care of my spiritual house, so that I am built on the foundation of the rock that comes from God, comes from Jesus, so that when the storms of life do come, or I'm in the middle of them, which I feel that I am, then I have an ability to stay calm in the chaos. And then maybe I can help others to achieve the same level of peace. And I want to go back to the therefore and kind of talk about a few areas in Matthew 7, and then we're going to kind of reflect a little bit on how this can be beneficial to us. So the therefore was then followed by building our house on the rock so that we'll be able to withstand the storms of life. But in about 4 other areas of Matthew 7, Jesus is still talking, and it's after the Sermon on the Mount, and he's giving us some instructions on just good godly practices to give us peace and understanding of what's going on in life. He tells us not to judge others, for in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. So there's one whole section on that, and it talks about the importance of not judging others, and it also gets very specific. You know, take the log out of your own eye before you go to remove the speck out of your brother's eye, because we think we got all the answers, but we don't see all the challenges and problems and things we ourselves are facing, and we need to clean up our street, our side of the street, our internal spiritual house, and then God will put us in a position to be able to be a benefit to others. He talks about ask, seek, and knock, and he has a whole section on that, and at the bottom of it he says, so in everything do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law of the prophets. And we talk about that a lot in the Universal Peace Officers, love God and love others. The 2 key foundations that's from the beginning of time that are the best 2 things, in my opinion, the best 2 rules that we can follow that will allow us to deal with all the other things that we have to deal with in life. You know, the narrow and the wide gates, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's real short. I'm just going to read that. It says, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Talks about true and false prophets. And basically it says, thus by their fruit you will recognize them. So be a fruit inspector in the relationships that you have in life and in the world. Look at the fruit of yourself and the other people around you, and then you can determine where their center is. He talks about true and false disciples and says, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. So the key to getting to heaven is following the will of God who is in heaven, and those are the ones that are going to be in heaven with him. And then it goes on, and we talked about the wise and foolish builders, and we read that whole section. So as you're going through and you're journeying through life, and you see the chaos and the idiocy that's going on in our country and in our world, there is no more important time, in my opinion, than present day reality right now, that we get centered and we get grounded and we get plugged into God and we get tuned in and we ask him to give us the stability and the guidance and the insight and the wisdom and the courage to go through, deal with, and then do what he wants us to do in this crazy, chaotic world, to help reach other children of his, to help them find that peace that comes from a relationship with God when you're grounded and rooted in his peace, his truth and know that you are a son of the Most High God or a daughter of the Most High God, then the other things of the world don't have as much impact or power on us when we can remember those truths. I look at, like today, I'm so frustrated. We got a Homeland Security guy that's not been following the Constitution, and they bring articles of impeachment, and within a couple hours, the shenanigans that they pull in Washington, D.C., they decide they're not even going to have the trial because it's unconstitutional in the 2 articles of impeachment. I'm not going to go into the details of the case, but because that's not what I'm doing on this platform. I'm really just trying to encourage people. But sometimes I got to speak out, and my peaceful heart and my warrior spirit kind of come together. And I've got to identify things that I see, and I got to speak out what I believe to be the truth. And then I got to speak out when I see the people who run our country doing things that are against the Constitution and against the people who are in this country, the citizens of this country. But that right there, if you just look at the border and the children and the First Amendment, I know over the last couple of months, I bring those 3 areas up a lot, but for me, it's real easy for us to see how things have got perverted and twisted when you look at those areas and you look at what the people who are in power, whether it's politicians, bureaucrats, or other people that are paying the lobbyists and trying to control policy through monetary contributions. It's kind of scary. So it's real important that we get grounded, we get centered, and we get around like-minded people, and we all realize that together is the only way we're going to overcome this evil, because it's out there and it's everywhere. And the best way for us to be at peace is to spend time seeking peace, spend time with God, and spend time with our other like-minded people, getting into his word and focusing on the truths, because he gives us a lot of instructions in the scriptures, and it's hard sometimes to figure out and discern what to follow because there's so much, and that's why I'm just going back to the simple basics of loving God and loving others, and I try to incorporate loving myself, because I think it's important that we spend time taking care of our mind, body, and spirit, so that we are in a place where we can be at peace, and then we're in a place where we can have a little rationality in the crazy chaos that's going on in the world. And then we can realize that together we have to stand and make sure that we follow God's guidelines and his principles, and don't allow the people who maybe have the microphone, who are doing things that are against God, against his principles, against the Judeo-Christian Constitution that governs our country. And these people are doing things that are, in my opinion, not only unconstitutional, but they're immoral, they're illegal, they're treasonous, they're tyrannical. And the only way it's going to change is if there's enough like-minded people in this country who stand up and unite and get involved and do things to make sure that we do not allow this stuff to continue. We're at a crossroads, and it's important that as American citizens and believers in a loving God, that as we understand him, that together we can all come together and unify, and not allow the people with the microphone to get us off of our spiritual center, to get us off track and get us off our balance. God has a lot of truths in the Word, so spend some time with him, and as you have a situation, go to God and ask him for guidance, and take a look at what he says in the Word, and then try to find a way that you can look at the lesson that may have been written 2,000 years ago, and what can you do to apply that truth to your life today so you can help prevent those things from happening again. I'm going to leave you guys with 2 little things to go do some research on, because the world's crazy. I know it is. I think y'all that are watching this probably know that it is, and we just wonder, did this just happen like last year, 5 years ago? And I don't think so. And I want you guys to go research 2 things: the Act of 1871 and what happened in, I think it was 1902 or 1903, that gave the power to the Federal Reserve. The Act of 1871 did some things to our country that, in my opinion, is where the hijacking really got started in our government. In 1903, they really did the hijacking of our financial system. And they've been doing things and changing things in the laws and the rules and the way they play the games over the last 100+ years. And it's just hard for average Joe citizen to see it because of the things that they keep away from us, and they only want us to hear certain things. That's their narrative. And then you have a lot of people today that are out there. Fortunately, we've got some First Amendment that is being protected a little bit, and we have some platforms where we'll get able to get out there and hear the truth and listen to people. And Do your own research, guys. You know, just because I tell you the world's crazy, don't take my word for it. Go research. Go look at the Act of 1871 and look at that totality, and then kind of do some research and see how that's affecting what's going on today. Look at 1903 when they did the thing that enacted the U.S. Treasury, and just kind of see how that has impacted and the way that has allowed the corruption and the immoral activity that's been going on by the people who are supposed to be the ones that are looking out for us. They ain't looking out for us, man. They're looking out for themselves. We got to look out for each other as God's kids, as brothers and sisters, and we're all in this together. I hope that you take time to check the foundation that your house is built on, your spiritual house, and make sure it's built on the rock of God and Jesus and His Word and His truth. And take time to share that love and that light with those that are around you, and make sure that you take time to pray for our country, pray for our leaders, pray for our enemies, that God will pull the scales down off their eyes and soften their hearts, and hopefully we can together through prayer try to find a way to navigate through the chaos that we're in and make sure that our house is in order. I love y'all. God loves y'all. Remember, guys, take care of your mind, body, and spirit. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and do all that stuff on these when you get a chance. But more importantly, remember to pray for the Peace Officers Ministry, and pray for God to fill us all with peace, love, and compassion. And God to fill all our family and friends with peace, love, and compassion. And God to fill all the earth and all humanity with peace, love, and compassion. God bless America. God bless the world. Peace Officers, out.